It says we are live. We got the big
Love it.
red corner. We are live, y'all.
We
We are
made it.
live. It is the Data Center News Show. And welcome to my guests. We are the cool kids, literally. We're gonna be talking about data center cooling. So we are the cool kids. And my buddy from InRail is trying to get on. We'll see if he can make it. But
Okay.
we've got two other folks. Wait, here he is. He did
Hi.
it.
Something coming on?
He's
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Yay!
Thanks.
He's here.
Modern technology. I'm using my phone.
Exactly.
Thanks for suggestions, Martin.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that.
I'm gonna kick your other self out. Okay, all right, great. He cloned himself. Great, awesome. We're here. This is gonna be lovely. All right, so I'm gonna let all my expert guests introduce themselves. We're gonna talk about all cool things about data center cooling. It's gonna be great, and then we'll just have a fun conversation. So this is the Data Center News Show. We are a show of the U.S. PropTech Council. For those of y'all don't know who the PropTech Council is, we're like super awesome. And we are the Real Estate Technology Trade and Association from the United States. And I am the chairwoman, and I lead that lovely organization. And if you are not a council member, well, you should be. It's a great organization to be in. So, all right, let's get started. And Martin, you can kick us off.
Happy to do that. Thanks for having me on again, Amy, and great to see everybody. Martin Renkes, I'm with Johnson Controls. I'm the Executive Director of Strategic Alliances for Sustainable Infrastructure. Many of you may know Johnson Controls for our cooling technologies that we build, but we also have a division called Sustainable Infrastructure that does services such as cooling as a service. So that's the area I'm in. We have very unique business models where we do financing of systems and provide cooling as a service. So great to be on again.
Yay, glad to have you. All right, and Gabriel.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Gabriel Lozano. I'm a Director of Engineering at Flex, specifically right now focusing on liquid cooling within the Operations Engineering Division in Cloud and Enterprise business in Flex. And overall, I think I've been in the industry, data center industry. I'm a thermal and mechanical engineer by heart. I've been in the industry for like 14 years. Started at APC, Schneider Electric, CDUs, in-row cooling, then also several years at Intel in the data center and artificial intelligence division. Thermal analysis and thermal cooling and air and cool solutions for CPUs from Intel portfolio. And prior to Flex, I was at AWS as an engineering manager for the thermal mechanical team, developing custom hardware for AWS. And now I'm here in liquid cooling for Flex. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, so good to have you. And all right, it's Guangdong? Am I saying that right? Did I say that?
That all sounds good. I'm a
Close
Guangdong Jew. Yeah, I go by GD, by the way. So
GD. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, GD. Welcome.
Okay, great. Thanks, Amy, for the invitation. I really appreciate that. So I'm Guangdong Zhu. I go by GD, and so I'm a senior researcher and group manager of Thermal Energy System Group at the National Renewable Energy Lab, our main campus in Golden, Colorado. So my group been working on all type of renewable energy technology, touching on thermal, heating and cooling, electricity, and mainly working on the geothermal, solar thermal, and thermal energy storage, and the hybrid energy systems for all different types of application, including the data center and energy needs here. And for this particular show, I Radiant project is one of the project I'm leading on, touching on using the underground for store the cooling to reduce the data center peak cooling load. So
yes, cold utes. It's gonna be awesome. It's very cool. Well, let's start there. Let's start with the cold utes. I saw it and I was like, that's like the coolest name ever. So let's talk about utes and what they are. So you're using underground. You're using like geothermal, basically, right, to cool the data center, or to exhaust heat, or what are you using it for?
Okay, there's some confusion. So it's under the geothermal portfolio, but it's not really traditional geothermal. So we call it cold UTES. But I like your name. We should call it cool UTES. It's really cool technology. So UTES stands for underground thermal energy storage. So we are using the rock, the earth itself to as a storage media to store the cold. So then you for data center, you're using the excess capacity of chiller. In the winter of for data center, you can cool off the rock gonna be large scale. In the winter, then can use using cold to cool the data center in the summer or any kind of peak hours throughout the year. So.
Interesting. That's crazy. Oh, that's cool. That's like super
Yeah, it's cool,
awesome.
literally and figuratively, right?
Literally and figuratively. That's like super
You
cool.
see,
So
it's
how
just-
long?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
go
Go ahead, Amy.
No, it's just like how long would the storage last theoretically? Could it last all summer? Could it maybe?
Yeah, you're a really good engineer, Amy. Here, so typically I got this question, from after half hour when I explain the concept. So this because this concept only work for large scale. If you're looking for, I just cooling my house with the and you test it work, but it's not going to be that efficient. Okay,
Right.
the idea is U-test technology cover two different type. One is using the rock itself, not shallow, just rock. The earth itself, just put. You can just drilling down like 50 or 100, below 100 or 100 feet. That's all. Then you build drilling, then build some piping, running the water and cool down the rock. Then if you having really many drilling holes for this technology, then for example can be probably, for example, they are half mile, half square mile or 1 square mile. Then you're saying you stored out heat for the large volume. Then the loss of the cold energy gonna be only through the surface. Surface is square of the dimension. The cold energy you store is gonna be cubic in proportional to the volume. So as long as you have a large scale, then you actually can store the cold across season.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's
Look at
basically
that.
concept.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder what that would look like as far as the development goes. I mean, you'd have to, yeah, that would be interesting. You completely kind of redesign the whole data center if you were going to do something like that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, other U-test technologies you can drilling even deeper. For some location you may have some aquifer underneath, some water reservoir. It's like oil and gas field. It's like probably a little bit deep, even 5,000, 8,000 feet deep. Then you can using the water or brine at the water. You can pull out the water from the reservoir, cool down, then resend it back. Then the water gonna be naturally cool down the positive media in the reservoir, store there, and whenever you use that, you can just extract the water out to cool anything you need, including data center.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
GC, is this a closed water loop and it's using the water from the aquifer, or is it just thermal storage of air?
So yeah, so it's closed loop. So basically, we are going to be circling the water around for both technology.
Okay.
Very cool. Interesting. Yeah. That's just super cool. I was talking to somebody else that they're based in the Philippines, and they were looking at redesigning the data centers for to pick as different uses, right? So they were bringing the water in or cooling in. They would start in the offices, and then as it would exhaust out of the offices. Well, it's a little bit hotter, but it's okay for the data center, right? Like, so you could make it work for, like, say, liquid cooling. It's a little bit hotter, but it's still cool enough to where it could do that. And as it exhausts out of the servers itself, well, then you can get it to you for another use where it's still a little bit hotter, but it's cool enough, right, for another use outside the building. And I was mesmerized. I was like, well, that's kind of ingenious, but what would be interesting to see as we look at different cooling technologies and different uses of the same water, right? It's used here, and then it comes over here, and well, you can use it over here too, and then push it over here, and you can use it there too. That would be really super interesting. So yeah, but that's really unique that you can run it down underground and and cool stuff off. So that's super cool. So Gabriel, what are y'all working on over at Flex? What's your latest stuff? Are you using, and I think it's Utes. I know y'all call it UTIS, but I've renamed it. It's Utes now. I think it's Utes. No, I'm just kidding.
So yeah, and in Flex, my team is mostly looking at rack and server level cooling solutions. So we're facing an interesting transition where liquid cooling is becoming more popular, obviously, because of the AI/ML boom. We are pretty much focusing on the server level solutions. Obviously, we have to integrate this into our data center space. We need to understand how to cool within our facilities. What we are trying to focus right now is in best practices on how to assemble direct-to-chip liquid cool solutions, how to properly integrate. We're going to face a lot of challenges into the supply chain because we need to explore optimized cold plates, optimized components, server and rack level, and it's pretty much understanding and how to scale this up. The cold plate solutions have been there for a while. It's not a new technology, but then once you have to scale this up and build, I don't know, 50,000 servers, or no, maybe more, 50,000 racks, per year, and operate them at scale, 24/7. We're gonna see we're seeing a lot of unknown variables that we weren't expecting. So right now is focusing first on direct-to-chip liquid cooling. Right now the transition is to what are commonly known as hybrid servers. So we are cooling with liquid-cooled CPUs, GPUs, the critical components, ASICs. Now the major hyperscalers, they have their own ingredient, their own preferred GPU, and then I think the next step is going to be fully liquid, like every single component not having fans at all in the servers, and then immersion or liquid impingement, right direct to the silicon. So, but right now it's mostly direct to chip liquid cooling, liquid to liquid solutions.
So when you talk about supply chain, does anybody in the U.S. manufacture any of this, or are we importing pretty much everything?
Flex.
Yeah.
I mean, no. We do have our vertically integrated solutions. We do have capabilities there. I know there are several players here in the U.S. In this field. I think the challenge that is going to happen with the supply chain is the scale. All the hyperscalers are now transitioning to liquid cooling solutions.
Yeah.
But I think that they are still a little bit hesitant of the full transition because they don't know. My guess is that they don't know how to operate at scale. They need a lot of servers. They need to understand their processes. They need to understand how they're going to handle. You have now potentially leaks. The infrastructure readiness is different. So once they go full speed with liquid cooling, it's not something that is going to happen. They're not going to go in a smooth transition. They're just going to change from having 1,000 racks per year to 50,000. So it's going to be challenging. But there are definitely players in the US in every single component, cold plates, immersion fluids, full system level solutions. But it's global, this supply chain ecosystem.
Yeah. Hey, Martin.
Hey.
What are y'all working on?
So it's interesting. We're quite complementary with Gabriel and GZ here, in that Gabriel's probably taking it. Gabriel, you can correct me if I'm mistaken. Taking it from like the CDU to the plate, right? That's the liquid cooling to the chip, and GZ's more on like possibly the storage of creating cool air from the storage, thermal storage, and we're really on the cooling side of the building itself and going all the way down to the CDU. So Johnson Controls, I think we just celebrated 140 years that we've been around. I don't think there were data centers back in the 1800s, but cooling buildings is something we're very, very familiar with. So when you're looking at a data center, you're looking at the building itself, cooling the building itself, and then getting the cooling all the way down to the racks. And what used to be just air cooling, as Gabriel mentioned, is now certainly going very much to liquid. So we'll take it right to the CDU and then do the plate-based work there. Most of my work is done less on the technology space and more on the business model space. So as we move forward, and we all know because we're in the middle of this, how fast this market is moving and the demand and the amount of capital that it's taking to get a lot of this done. And we're really a vehicle leveraging the tremendous experience of Johnson Controls on the cooling side with all of our expertise and staff, and then leveraging financial models and financing to enable customers to say, hey, look, I don't want to worry about cooling. You guys provide the cooling, so we'll guarantee temperature pressure, a certain amount of chilled water at the CDU at a certain pressure and a certain temperature for a period that could be like 10 years, for example. So we guarantee that. So we do the design, build, installation, operations, maintenance, life cycle. We're basically taking cooling off the risk list, just eliminating that. So the data center developers and people that are trying to make money, and they're trying to make money as fast as they can by getting these data centers up as fast as possible. And this just isn't a risk eliminator. So JCI itself is developing a lot of amazing technologies on the cooling side. On our side, we continue to introduce new business models. So our basic model is cooling as a service, but we're also expanding into areas. We're providing fuel cell power in partnership with Bloom Energy, for example. We're also taking the fuel cell exhaust, which is coming off at a 400C, pretty hot, using a heat absorber and turning that into quote unquote free cooling. So there's a lot of really phenomenal, interesting models that you can build to help cool. That's not just a standard liquid cooling or air cooling.
That's awesome. We're going to have Jeff Barber from Bloom Energy on the show in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Jeff's
great.
I didn't know. Yeah, Jeff's awesome. I didn't know y'all were doing that. That's really cool.
Yeah, we did our first
they're
project.
blowing it. Really?
They're killing it. They're doing great stuff. I think there was a nice announcement about something with Oracle with them today.
Yes. Yeah. So. He was telling me. He was like, hey, sorry it took me so long to get back to you. Have you seen the Oracle announcement? We're a little busy. I was like,
yeah, okay, today. Talk about it's site, construction, cooling, and power, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna get up. So I'm wondering, so what do y'all see? So I'll throw this out to everybody, but as far as and this show tends to be very educational for people who aren't in the data center industry, right? So this 101 level. So I'll do this 101 level. When you're talking about cooling a data center, we're not talking about like you're in your house. Like it doesn't have to be 72 degrees, right? The servers will operate up to what, like 100? Is that right? Somewhere in there. So we're cooling it not like so people can hang out in it. We're cooling it so we're keeping the servers so they don't explode. Is that what's the step? Where Gabriel? Where is it? Where? When does a computer explode? How hot does it have to be?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to use Celsius.
Okay.
I'm a metric system fan. A typical environment, I will say, is around 27 Celsius. But the data center are divided at 27. Give me a second. I'm horrible.
I'll do it. You keep talking.
That's 80 degrees. 27 is 80. Fair
okay,
enough.
got it. Okay.
So this is not a place you want to be hanging out in.
Yeah, the thing is, there in the most common data center architectures, you have the cold aisle and the hot aisle.
Right.
So the cold aisle is the 27 is the air inlet to the servers. You have to cool them down. Mm-hmm. And then the exhaust side, which is the hot aisle, it's probably around 60 to 65 Celsius. So, which, let me see, 66
65 is
Celsius.
149.
149.
Holy
So that,
You don't want to be hanging out
crikeys.
in the hot aisle.
right.
No.
So that's in the cold aisle, the hot aisle. But you need to have containment. So
Right.
that's not an area where the technicians or the operators are typically at.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
but obviously, I will say 27 Celsius is a typical inlet temperature for the servers. The reason why you need temperature control is because every single component in a server is rated to a certain maximum temperature limit to operate reliable. The silicon itself, which is the main component for CPUs, GPUs, etc., typically has a maximum temperature of 105 Celsius. That's the max temperature before it starts throttling. It's when you have your CPU, when you have like problems of performance, it just changes the mechanical properties of the silicon itself. However, now we have some other components, silicon level, like the HBM, which is the high bandwidth memory, which is another feature that some of the GPUs and CPUs have. They have lower temperature max requirements around 85 to 90 Celsius. So it's a balance on which type of server architecture you have to make that trade-off between what is your inlet temperature, what is your exhaust temperature. But I don't know if that answered the question.
It does. No, that's super cool. I use cool a lot, and now I'm gonna like say cool like a lot. But no, it does, because I think people have not a good idea of what it really takes to, like, how hot or perceivably hot something is. Like, that's amazing. I like to control 150 degrees or whatever coming off a server, and then to cool it and to manage that airflow and do all those different things. It's really kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So is it GD, is NREL, what else besides the Utes? I'm gonna call it Utes. I can't say the Utes. Besides, what else is NREL working on for the data center industry?
So so NREL is a national, national lab. We are funded by Department of Energy. So basically, what we do all type of research actually to support growth of industry. And we mainly focus on many actually renewable energy technology, and also the energy efficiency techniques, and also grid integration, etc. And also we start also touching on the traditional power technology as well. All those type of technology can see a position can be actually, from my point of view, can be used to support growth of data center deployment. So that's just too many to mention them. But for here, touch on the code UTES technology is treated as, we are more often looking into the emerging high potential, high risk technology. So we can do initial assessments, evaluate whether there's a great potential for technology to be useful to any kind of given industry. Here is for data center. Then we just hope industry to take on to bring that into the commercial, arena, but not really put the too much energy into the early stage technical assessments.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll have to partner up. So our data center innovation lab is getting designed now, and with the whole goal of that, like being able to test out new tech and stress test certain things, and we can mimic. We're not going to have it. So we're doing the design now. We're working with a group that already is building a lab in the Philippines, and they're looking at their design. It's super cool. They have a rack, but they're not going to have servers in there because we really don't care about what the servers are doing. But they're going to mimic the heat using space heaters, which is super cool. And you can like light it up. And then we're going to have all this heat come in, and we're going to test all these different like cooling technologies and all these other different like hardware things, which we find is like, it's super. I'm so excited about this. And we're working on putting it together in Austin, Texas. So we'll have to work together. It'll still be great. You can come and test out our stuff at our lab, our little lab. to do
Yeah.
like, you know, all sorts of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to hear more.
Yeah, no, it'll be awesome. I'm super excited about this. I'm it's so funny, like this brainchild I had, and then as I talk to more and more people, they're like, that's a great idea. And then the people, I love the data center industry because everybody just gets together and like, yeah, no, let's do it. Let's figure out how to put this together and how to make sense of this, and let's, you know, and everybody's really super supportive. It's weird, but it's great. You know, it's great for sure. Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
So, what do y'all see? Like, okay, think 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead. What do you, yeah, maybe a year because things are changing so damn fast. What are you seeing as far as the data center needs, and what about quantum computing? Because I don't know if y'all know, there's Chicago is putting together a quantum computing like park, and they've got Quantum there, and there's some other quantum startups coming there. What do we think that's going to do to, you know, needs as far as data centers go? Anybody can take that one. Just jump in.
I'll let Gabriel. Gabriel sounds like an expert on all the
Yeah.
AI
All
stuff.
So we
Okay.
can send questions to the rest of the panel. Awesome.
Yes, exactly. I know. Do it. Hunt, GD.
To be honest, I've read a little bit about quantum. I haven't, you know, dived deep into the details of the specific characteristics or what changes on the package level. But
Yeah.
in terms of what is coming up in the like or is already here, I think there are going to be interesting like changes on the way data centers are laid out. Just to give you an example, and probably for whoever is the audience, right now AI ML systems are probably requiring 125 kilowatts per rack position. So that's the total power that you need to dissipate. When I started, you know, in this role as a thermal engineer back there in APC by Schneider Electric, a high performance rack was considered about 20 kilowatts.
Right.
So that like it was in 2000, probably 2012. That was a high performance computing rack. 20 kilowatts was like the high end. Right now, NVIDIA GPUs are consuming 1.5 kilowatts. The ones that we're having right now.
The one itself, yeah.
Yes, and their systems they have 8 GPUs at least. So you're having in one server what you had 10 years ago in a full rack. And now I've seen roadmaps where the chip packaging, the total power per chip in 2035 can be up to 15 kilowatts. That's per chip. So I saw that because of I probably can forward you that table. So what is happening is we have power challenges, we have density challenges. We're going to change before the whole idea of a data center is probably right now the size of a Costco filled with filled with racks, rows and rows of racks. I don't think that's going to be the way in 2 or 3 years we're going to see for AI/ML optimized data centers. You cannot even get enough power to cool that size of a data center. So you're probably going to have, if you go liquid cooling also, you probably can reshape the way you have your cold aisle on the hot aisle, because now you probably don't need that much of a hot aisle because some of the heat is not being taken away by the air. It's in your liquid cooled loops. So you can reshape your data center like that. Acoustics, there's a lot of challenges with acoustics. Those servers are very loud. So I'll say that in the next 2-3 years, we're going to start to see optimized data centers for AI and ML. And the other thing that, just as a final thought, is if you see the way GPU systems operate, like the AWS Ultra Server, I think Microsoft also has another GPU-based system where it's like 2 racks interconnected to each other. So it's like, I don't know if there are 32 or 64 servers interconnected to each other. That's basically a one single server. So we're going to start to see also several racks interconnected 10, 15, 20 racks, probably you're going to have a data center that is acting as a single server. So it's also reshaping the way we are building rack and data center for AIML. That's my thought.
If I could add on top of that, I think Gabriel hit the nail on the head. But adding on top of it from the cooling perspective, well, first of all, on quantum computing, I genuinely believe we're probably 10, 15 years away from practical use, which then will probably be used for like discovering medicines, material science, things like that. So I don't think we're planning to build data centers for quantum computing just yet. It'll come someday. But on the cooling side, I think Gabriel hit the nail on the head, which is that this tech is moving so fast. So as we design something today for the tech that we're seeing today, what happens 2 years from now? I'm working with a 150 megawatt crypto mining data center, and they want to add 40 megawatts of cooling for AI. And the needs from crypto to basic AI, the cooling needs are tremendously different. It's like night and day. You know, crypto, they went down to the local store, bought some of those floor fans and set them up, and off they go. Maybe not that simple, but
they did. They did.
If you can do it that way. But as we move, it's going to change so fast. So what we're always thinking about at Johnson Controls is what is this as it changes? How can we adjust? How can we meet the needs? How do we make things as modular and upgradable as possible so we don't just build something and you're stuck with something? So we spent a lot of time thinking about that because this is not going to slow down. I don't think there's any end in sight to at least for the next 3-4 years that this is going to slow down. So
yeah. I really like this panel actually with Gabriel and Martin. I only have a couple of things to add here. So for one, I keep hearing we have this new DOE Code U test project. We just started forming a technical advisor group, including over 20 data center developer as advisors. Then we learned that in the next 5 or 10 years, 5 years. Let's talk about 5 years. 10 years might be too late for some data center developer to be to develop their business. 5 years, starting from now, we keep hearing data center. They talk about hyperscaler data center like over 1 gigawatts. Or even 5 gigawatts data center scale. So for those things, I want to emphasize why the cooling is so important. You talk about the power consumption of the chips. Those energy is conserved. There's no for the first law of energy conservation. There's all the energy you consume become heat. Then you have to, cooling. That's a cooling load. The more energy you get in, that's exactly the same amount of heat you need to cool off the chip. That's where that's where we need to also don't forget the need of required cooling technology. Then not only to take away those heat, but also realize the impact of those cooling load or energy need for the data center from grid. You're saying, okay, I want to develop a 6 gigawatts in California today. Not going to happen because the grid cannot take that. Grid thing, right. That's where you need to think about how do you, design your whole energy system for data center. You can consume least of peak load from a given grid. And if you do need to add, expand the grid capacity to accommodate more and more data center, how you can design the whole energy, the whole energy system, including cooling for data center, you can require at least grid expansion capacity. That's going to be saving the cost for the grid, and also going to be makes the the whole grid expansion much faster. So.
Yeah, Chris Wright, who's the DOE secretary, was in an interview yesterday because Trump did his. I love how President Trump tees up my show. It's so awesome. It's so great. Mm-hmm. I love how he does that. He was talking about AI yesterday and all this other stuff, and I'm like, thank you, President Trump. You knew my show was coming on the next day, so just saying. But Chris Wright from the DOE was talking about how everybody is going to need to do on-site power generation, like
Yeah.
You're going to need to, right? And I was like, well, okay, the data center engineer was already planning on it. So, because y'all were like too damn slow and they didn't want to wait around. But now, you got the DOE chair going, yep, you're going to have to do it. So hopefully they can streamline some of that permitting and all of that comes with it. But it's super interesting to see how energy and cooling. Like the cooling is like the major user of the energy that comes into a data center. It's cooling in the servers, like pretty much it, right? So maybe the lights are in there, like 2%, whatever. But I think it's super cool to see how we're gonna do new energy things. But I'm glad you brought it up because guess what? August 7th, we're going to have Bloom Energy on. They're going to come on the show and we're going to talk about on-site power generation and what that looks like. And everybody wants to use natural gas. And how do we do, if we do renewable, what does it look like? And we also have this group called Legend Power Systems where they're talking about they have this new technology that allows the power to be, when you have renewable along with natural gas on-site power generation, the power gets a little, they call it dirty. I don't know. Like you energy people, I don't know. I'm like, okay, that looks bad. And then you put this little thing on there and it kind of smooths out the power, which helps your cooling systems last longer and different things. That's their use case. So we'll let them come on the show and talk about it. So, that's all good things. So, all right. So the other thing we want to talk about cooling is there was a news article. Meta apparently built a big, huge data center, and those big old meanies, they drilled a well and basically sucked all the water out for the neighborhood. And these neighbors now have no longer any water next to this big Meta data center, right? Do a lot of data center drill wells? Does anyone? I mean, is that like a thing? Like, do they all drill wells if they can't get water? Is the water thing an issue? Does anyone know?
It depends on the cooling, Amy. I know Gabriel could probably comment on this as well. So you can have closed loop liquid cooling where you're actually not using water at all. I mean, once you get the system primed and it's working, it's closed loop, so you don't waste water, you don't use water. In some cooling instances, you're using cooling towers. You probably have seen those in a building. So what you do is you send the hot liquid up, it goes through, there's fans, and this uses water to cool this liquid down, and then it sends it back, and that water evaporates. And when you get out in there in the summer and you get out of the pool and you're wet and you feel a little bit of breeze and it feels really nice and cool, that's what's happening and how that's cooling. So, and then that water just evaporates, goes up into the air. So based on the type of cooling, you can use quite a bit of water.
Yeah, interesting.
I agree. I wasn't aware of that news article. I'm familiar with the typical closed loops. You have one loop, which is the data center infrastructure loop, if you will, the chillers, cooling towers, but it's a closed loop, which pretty much takes the heat out of the data center. And then you have inside of the data center your cooling distribution units, your CDUs that are taking, it's like the secondary loop, which is basically taking the heat out of the servers. So it's like two separate, but they're closed loops. So I'm not sure what, probably going to take a look at that article.
Does the water not evaporate at all? Like, don't you have to feed it a little bit? Like, it just stays in there forever? No way. Like, doesn't it evaporate?
Yeah, I mean, it's like think about the radiator that you have in your car. You have a cooling system in your car, so you have coolant. It's getting your cooler inside of your car, and is rejecting the heat via the radiator, and that's where you are. It changes phase. It evaporates in the radiator, but comes back again and changes the phase, and it's a closed loop. It's contained. It's not open. So the radiator is the one that is going to change the phase of the fluid, but it's contained. It doesn't go away.
Yeah, there's a basically called there's a heat exchanger between the primary cooling loop and second cooling loop. Second cooling loop basically is circulating the water, take a heat away from the rack.
Correct.
Then you have a heat exchanger. Then there's not touching. There's going to be additional kind of a primary cooling loop having you can circulating the water through, then evaporate into the air. So that's a wet cooling. You basically using evaporation of water to reject the heat into the ambient. So that's a wet cooling. Then you can also using the air cooling using fans, just fans that cooling down whatever that's in the second the primary cooling loop. Then the U test itself is going to be third cooling loop. They're going to be integrated with the primary and secondary. And how they, it's really add-on system, not really require complicated integration method. And also when you're using cold U tests, we talk on here, it's not going to consume water. Typically, we keep hearing there are some data centers location they allow to you use water. The wet cooling it can be efficient cooling technology, but there are many locations have a very strict water consumption requirement. That's where when you're not allowed to use water, and then then the dry cooling or where's a huge advantage of cold U test is like it doesn't consume water.
Interesting. So basically, once you get it set up, it's good. Like whatever you use to get the loops up and running, then they're gonna do their thing, right? Unless they leak.
It also depends on the system.
Yeah.
All kinds of cooling systems, and I'm not sure what happened. I haven't read the article. I'm sure someone may have missed something somewhere. I doubt that was Meta's intent to do that, right?
No, I don't think it was Meta's intent at all, and it might not even be Meta, but it might be a hit piece. Who knows, right? It could be like there's a major, I don't know. I mean, the neighbor had a well and they had a well, and apparently the neighbor's well ran dry, so they're blaming Meta. Like it could be who knows. But it was interesting. It was an interesting article. I always talk about this because a lot of people, I don't know, for one industry, the data center industry, for some reason, has lots of myths and has lots of misnomers, and a lot of people don't get it at all. And so they'll just look for someone to blame. And guess who's got a lot of money right now? Data center industry's got a lot of money right now. So we're going to blame them for sucking out all our power and all our water, and they're evil, blah, blah, blah. And so I like to dispel some of those.
I mean, I think our industry could do a much better job of being transparent about communications and let people understand what's going on. I don't think a lot of people do, and if they don't understand, they get nervous or scared, like most of us.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's interesting. So besides liquid cooling, okay, so explain to me immersion cooling. Someone's got to explain. So are they sticking the servers in a tank of water? Like, how does that work?
Yes.
What is it? Yeah, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. It's completely submerged.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's exactly right. It's a dielectric fluid, so it's non-conductive for electricity. And there's two types: single phase, doesn't change phase. They have two-phase immersion cooling, which you can have evaporative boiling, so it decreases the heat transfer in the two-phase immersion cooling. I think it's two-phase immersion cooling for several years was paused because this type of fluids couldn't meet the environmental standards. One thing for sure I can tell you here, the environmental standards that the data center industry has to follow are pretty strict. Two-phase immersion cooling was a big deal 5 years ago. Everybody was looking into that. And then a new environmental standard came for these type of fluids and everything got paused. And I saw in the year or a year and a half or so ago, it's coming back again because some industries are having some fluids that can meet these standards. But go ahead, Martin. Sorry to interrupt.
Gabriel, I was gonna ask you, is one of the reasons that immersion cooling hasn't taken off is many of the chip manufacturers and server manufacturers haven't certified their equipment to run in immersion. So there could maybe be seen a risk.
Yes, that's one. I will say also not sure if this one is the critical one, but one thing that I learned during my time at AWS is that these servers require a lot of servicing. That's they're not there. So when AWS or these hyperscalers land their servers and racks into the data centers, they're not just sitting there turned on and for 5 years and nothing happens. First of all, the lifetime of a server, it's probably 5 years. After 5 years, the servers are decommissioned. So with air cooled, it's pretty much you have to scrap them. With liquid cooling, then you add more complexity, because what are you going to do with all this fluid? What are you going to do with this rack position? That was specifically designed for this uh, size of tubes, size of cold plate. You cannot fit a new one because your whole infrastructure can only give you a certain amount of fluid. I think that's going to be an interesting question that these hyperscalers need to solve in the next years or so when they start decommissioning the servers. With immersion cooling, it's even more complex, and they are constantly being served. They have to replace cables. They have to replace um, DIMMs, drives, and what Martin said is probably the critical one is like every single component that you fit in immersion cooling has to be certified that can withstand 5 years in that fluid without degrading. You don't have that in direct to chip liquid cooling because the cold plate, the fluid right now, it never touches, it doesn't touch the you have liquid impingement for the silicon, but it's well understood. But it's not touching cables, it's not touching connectors unless there's a leak, obviously. But this is a catastrophic event. But immersion cooling, you need to certify every single component.
There's a firm called Firmus, Firmus, and their CEO, Tim Rosenfeld, one of the leaders in this immersion space. And I had a similar question with him, and he seems to think that immersion is going to be complementary, that it's not like the next step, but it's going to be like a complement for certain applications and certain types of data centers. So just a thought.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, just a quick add. Actually, that's a kind of cooling technology we are survey and identify to see how they can be work with the cold U tests. Cold U tests going to be directly work with those primary loop, either using liquid cooling or immersion cooling technology. We start to talk with leading scientists, looking into some kind of a challenge issue about immersion cooling from Sandia Niche Lab. So they've been, as I know, they've been working. They have been make some advancement on this type of technology. So it definitely need a collective efforts to push the technology into the market.
Yeah. So basically, when the server's decommissioned, you're technically, literally throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Basically, the whole system's got to go, right? Basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
You remember the movie Matrix where they're like in that water pod?
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
immersion cooling is like Matrix. You pull out, then you go, oh, geez, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except it's just not water. So
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So what is in the liquid? It's not water. It's some
not,
sort of.
It's a non-conductive, right, Gabriel? Is it a
Yes.
So I'm sure
Yes.
it's like gross and hazardous and all sorts of bad, right? This fluid, whatever the fluid is, or is it not?
No, I think in terms of hazard, shouldn't be. It's very like certified. Like these companies have to go through different standards. I will say glycol-based fluids are some of the common as well. Water, distilled water. The water is distilled water is pretty much non-conductive. So you just add some glycol or any other fluid to increase the viscosity. So I don't remember off the top of my head the type of fluids for two-phase immersion cooling. The PFAS were the ones that got kind of not certified 5 years ago. They're safe, environmentally speaking.
Yeah. What about those data centers they wanted to stick on submarines? Or like stick them in the ocean, right? Because they're all nuclear submarines, right? So you could just borrow the nuke in the submarine. And then I don't think the government will let us do this, but there's all these crazy ideas about sticking data centers under the ocean because it's has whatever, and stick it inside submarine because hopefully those don't leak. And but I would think you'd have to connect it to something. They got to get the data out somehow. I don't know. Anybody got thoughts on submarine data centers?
I think it's a size challenge, right?
Yeah.
You saw Meta's new size of Manhattan data center. That would be a big submarine.
I know.
But liquid is certainly much more of an efficient heat exchanger. So putting something in the ocean would be a great way to cool something down.
Yeah. As long as nothing leaks. I don't know. Yeah. I'm like an old contractor. I just, every time I think of something with water, I'm like, oh, it's going to leak. It's going to break. Something's going to break and it's going to leak.
One of the things that is going to be, or is super important in liquid cooling, now that we are launching at scale server hyperscalers, it's telemetry and sensors. The liquid cool systems have telemetry all over the place to check for pressure, to check for flow, to check they have processes in place to make sure that they're very well defined. If there's a leak, if they have to go through testing, and the fact is nothing is 100% reliable. It can be 99.999, even the aeronautic industry. What is going to be very important for each company moving into liquid, a right process, right methodologies to know what they're going to do when it leaks, containing the pain. And so they're all doing that.
So are there brownfield sites that are trying to adapt for AI workloads and revisiting how they're cooling their spaces? Are they changing? What does it take to do an adaptive reuse of an existing data center to something that might go liquid cooling or immersion cooling or whatever, that is doing air cooling now? What does that look like? Is it feasible or not? You want to take it, Martin?
Yeah, that's happening quite a bit because many existing data centers are looking at maybe they built this data center 5 years ago and they want to leverage the newer technologies so they can host AI workloads. And as we've talked about on the show already, those AI workloads require significantly more power per rack. So it's a lot more heating per rack that's coming off. Power in, heat out, as GC said. So it does require changes, and it can be retrofit. Brownfield is possible. Obviously, you need power. We need space. But the brownfield retrofits are very much possible. As I mentioned earlier, I'm working with a crypto that's upgrading to support an AI workload.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. GD, could someone put a cold UTES product on an existing data center, like a brownfield site, or is it not possible? Do you have to do it from the beginning?
Yeah, it's definitely feasible because, as I mentioned, that we are talking about we talk about cooling. Actually, cooling touching on separate infrastructure. Separate piece of a given structure of data center. So you basically have a cooling loop for the rack and a cooling loop to reject heat into the air. Those something you have to do no matter what. Then we are for cold UTES, we just adding third loop, interact with those primary loop and second loop to really dispatching the cooling power, basically cooling energy between different time scale from basically from night to day, from winter to summer. So that's, and also beauty about cold UTES is they doesn't acquire kind of surface, above surface, basically installation or something. It's all underneath, underground.
Interesting.
Okay. Underground, you're draining. You're going to be not going to see the things.
Does it have to be right underneath the foundation, or can it be off to the side a little bit? Or
it can be offside a little bit. You do need, if offside a little bit, you need to have additional loop to transport water between the underground storage with the above ground cooling loop with rack or with the atmosphere
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because I could see like if it's a brownfield site, the foundation was built, it was structured to be not have an underground.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's taking up too much
Yeah.
space, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say it's more like an emerging concept. It really doesn't require scientific breakthrough. It's everyone learn the concept, they can really adopt it where it makes sense. Then it's a really key question going to be a couple of things. One, on the economics, where how the system going to be changed with the scale of a given system, and what type of as you can imagine, you can using a lot of drilling. What type of drilling technology going to be most advanced or competitive to give you economic benefits by building such a given system? And also depends on local grade, because if you have seeing a kind of increasing electricity price at peak load, that's where you probably see additional benefits by adding cold U-test. You can mitigate your power consumption from grid during the peak hours. So that's give you additional kind of saving for paying for electricity.
Yeah, and especially now that Texas passed Senate Bill 6, and so it basically is going to allow ERCOT to pull the plug on a data center if they have to. And I'm sure every data center went, every Texas data center went, what? So yeah, more on-site power generation is going to be a thing. People
are going to be happening, no doubt.
Yeah, maybe those generators are going to have to kick up if I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I don't know. I think it was like, no, they're not going to pull the plug on a data center. They have to serve them with electricity, but it was a way to appease some people, I think. But still, it's a risk, right? It's definitely a risk. Look at that, y'all. We made it to the end of our hour. We're talking about data center cooling. This was so awesome and so much fun. Thank you guys for coming on the show. So, all right. We'll do outros, or if somebody would like to get a hold of you or talk through certain things, Martin, how could someone get a hold of you if they wanted to?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. You can find me under my name on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to talk to you.
LinkedIn is the place. Yep. Gabriel, you too?
Same. Mine. Well, not Martin's name. My name in LinkedIn. And yeah, feel free to contact me. I think it's a great industry and great time to be in this industry.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And GD.
Yeah, you can also find me on LinkedIn, or you can Google my name and NRAR. You should be able to find a page of me on the NRAR website.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, that's been the coolest show ever. Just saying.
Thank you so much.
I brought it back.
Nice meeting you, Martin and Gabriel.
Yeah. Thank y'all for coming on the show.
Enjoyed it.
All right. Yeah. So this has been the show of the U.S. PropTech Council. So everybody, watch us next week. We're going to be talking about data center construction with my buddy Michael Sia from Harvey Cleary and some other folks. And we're going to just walk through, data center construction challenges like there isn't any. They don't have any of that. So, but thanks for coming on the show, y'all. We'll see you.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Amy.